Enriqueta Chicano's Court of Auditors challenges Parliament to save Pedro Sanchez's government. Let's get started. Music. Hello everyone and welcome to a new edition of Medidas Cautelares with Miguel Ángel Pérez. And pay close attention because Pedro Sanchez's judicial network keeps working right on time like clockwork to save Pedro Sanchez's government. You already know that Pedro Sanchez has a judicial network in the Attorney General's office, in the Constitutional Court, in the Court of Auditors, and today we're going to talk specifically about the latest moves happening in the court. The Court of Auditors is presided over by the leftist Enriqueta Chicano, and are those moves solely aimed at saving Pedro Sanchez's government, protecting one of his coalition partners, the most despicable of them all, to the pro-ETA coalition of Bildu, which is necessary for Pedro Sanchez to remain in La Moncloa? Stay until the end of the video because you're going to be amazed by this extremely serious new information that we're going to reveal here on Exclusión. Porque esto no tiene court movements against Pedro Sanchez's government, and we already have this information published on the screen. You can see it. Attention, this is the president of the Court of Auditors, Enriqueta Chicano, a person who is completely left-wing. That's why she holds the position of president of the Court of Auditors and of course follows the interests of Pedro Sanchez's government. Well, attention, because the president of the Court of Auditors, Enriqueta Chicano, has defied Parliament and refuses to audit Bildu, to withdraw the subsidies granted to the pro-ETA group in the municipal elections of May 28, 2023, in which they included 23 people convicted of terrorism on their electoral lists. The Joint Committee for Relations with the Court of Auditors approved in June 2025, that is 9 months ago, at the initiative of the PP, to request a specific report from Chicano's court on Bildu, since including ETA members on their lists violates the organic law of the General Electoral Regime, known as the LOREG, regarding incompatibilities or requirements to receive public aid. It was estimated that the subsidies in question amounted to around 1.3 million euros. Despite this, Chicano decided not to explicitly include the analysis of Bildu in the new annual audit plan of the court for 2026, arguing that the initial granting of subsidies corresponds to the Central Electoral Board and the Ministry of the Interior under Fernando Grande Marlaska, a genuine excuse, a joke. Sources from the Court of Auditors, consulted by Medidas Cautelares with Miguel Ángel Pérez, view Enriqueta Chicano's challenge to Parliament as very serious. The Joint Committee represents the Parliament, and the Court of Auditors is obliged to respond to its requests. Chicano has so far refused to audit the subsidies granted to Bildu and has deliberately refused to redo 6 audit reports on contracts made during the COVID-19 pandemic. The same sources consulted emphasized that Chicano expressed his disagreement with the requests made by the Joint Committee during a recent plenary session, stating that they cannot interfere in the decisions of the Court of Auditors. In fact, he even stated that he was considering going to the Constitutional Court presided over by Candido Conde Pumpido, that way we're on home turf, or to the European Court seeking protection to defend the autonomy and powers of the court that she herself presides over. It should be remembered that last February, the Deputy Secretary for Institutional Regeneration of the PP, Cuca Gamarra, already posted a message on the social network X, formerly Twitter, in which she accused the Court of Auditors of disobedience, in reference to this issue because they say the law is clear and cannot be bypassed. Since Bildu included people convicted of terrorism on their lists, the Popular Party's Deputy Secretary stated that they cannot receive subsidies. The Court of Auditors, said Gamarra, must complete the file as required by Parliament. Despite this, Chicano continues to turn a deaf ear. We remind you that the Joint Committee for Relations with the Court of Auditors is a permanent parliamentary body of the Spanish Parliament and acts as the main one. It is the channel of communication and oversight between Parliament and the court presided over by Chicano. The former Secretary of Organization of the PSOE and right-hand man of Pedro Sanchez, Santos Cerdán, who as you know is deeply involved and heavily implicated in the scheme, Coldo in fact spent several months in pretrial detention. Santos Cerdán became president of the aforementioned Joint Committee for the Court of Auditors in February 2020. He was later replaced in December 2023 as president of this joint committee by his right-hand man, the socialist deputy Juan Francisco Serrano. As I was telling you, there was also another issue apart from Bildu's lists that Enriqueta Chicano's court has completely ignored, and they have refused to redo 6 audit reports on the contracts made during the COVID-19 pandemic. This request was also made by Parliament through the joint committee that we have just discussed. In fact, on April 30, 2024, this body passed up to 6 different resolutions urging the Court of Auditors to redo reports on these contracts, considering the ones done so far to be insufficient. However, the audit program of the Court of Auditors for 2026 approved at the plenary session of the Court on December 18, 2025 did not include the 6 requests for reports. These requests were made by Parliament through the aforementioned joint committee. You can see how things are in Spain. Certainly the degradation of the institutions is enormous. The use of public institutions solely to serve the needs and orders of Pedro Sanchez's government is a real scandal. And what about the case of the Court of Auditors that we reveal today, which adds to what we have published and uncovered in the last few hours from the Court of Auditors, of omitting from the reports those serious irregularities detected in the contracts awarded to the businessman Juan Carlos Barrabés, which are precisely being investigated by the courts. In the Begoña Gómez case involving Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez's wife, they are proof of that. That is to say, we have a Court of Auditors that, instead of doing its job, repeatedly protects the government of Pedro Sánchez, and if not the government of Pedro Sánchez, then the wife of the Prime Minister, Begoña Gómez. It's a real scandal because in the case of Bildu, it's obvious. That is to say, if they have violated the LOREG, the organic law of the general electoral regime, then they cannot have access to those public subsidies that all Spaniards pay for. They included 23 ETA members, 23 convicted terrorists in the 2023 municipal election lists. It's clear that the law has been violated. They have to return those subsidies, which could amount to 1.3 million euros. This is when the Court of Auditors, led by Enriqueta Chicano, comes to the rescue of Pedro Sanchez's government. Because if they did their job and carried out that audit and accounted for the total subsidies that EH Bildu has received irregularly, would EH Bildu have to return them? And obviously this would mean a problem for Pedro Sanchez's government's term. And for that, Pedro Sánchez manipulates the institutions, in this case with the Court of Auditors, with his great ally Enriqueta Chicano, to do the dirty work for him. The Court of Auditors doesn't do the job it is supposed to do, and in this way, Pedro Sánchez is allowed to remain in La Moncloa for a few more months. Anyway, everything that's happening in Spain is just shameful. But for that, we have channels like Medidas Cautelares with Miguel Ángel Pérez to expose all these wrongdoings and irregularities that are being committed, especially by the Sánchez camp. That's it for this edition of Medidas Cautelares with Miguel Ángel Pérez. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if so, please leave me your comments and opinions. You can always share it however you like. Of course, you can share the videos with your coworkers, family members, and friends. Anyway, there are many ways to share the videos. I know you do it because you tell me in the comments, so really, thank you all so much for your support, for being there, always there on the other end. And I also remind you that you can become members, either as chosen ones or as supremes. As chosen ones for less than 3 euros a month, or as supremes for less than 7 euros a month. You can support this community, this channel, Medidas Cautelares with Miguel Ángel Pérez, by making financial contributions. Each one, of course, gives what they can at 62,755,637,627,556,370. Thank you very much for being there every day and for not missing a single video of Medidas Cautelares with Miguel Ángel Pérez. The most important thing, as I always say, is that this information reaches everyone because information is power. See you soon.